Hello there, boys and girls. Today we are going to be learning about simple greetings and commands. And at the end of today's lesson, we should be able to greet and respond to simple greetings with appropriate tones, give and carry out simple commands, and also differentiate between tones in greeting and commands. You say good morning when you wake up at sunrise, that is, when the sun starts to come up, until noon. Good morning, Mommy. When someone says good morning to you, you say good morning back. Noon starts at 12 p.m. At noon, the sun is at its highest point. We say good afternoon till the sun starts to go down. Good afternoon, Mr. Nelson. When someone says to you, good afternoon, you say good afternoon back to them. When the sun starts to go down, we call it sunset. Sunset happens in the evening. And in the evening, we say good evening. Good evening, Mrs. Stella. When someone says good evening to you, you say good evening to them. When you can't see the sun anymore and it's dark outside, we know it's night time. At night, we say good night before we go to sleep. Good night, Daddy. And when someone says good night to you, you say good night back to them. Good morning, class. Now, how would you respond to Mrs. Stella's greeting? That is correct. You say, good morning, Mrs. Stella. How are you this morning? Do you know how to respond to Mrs. Stella's question? That is correct. The answer to how are you is, I am fine. Good evening, Mrs. Hassan. Good evening, Mrs. Ubi. Jamila, greet Mrs. Ubi. How should Jamila greet Mrs. Ubi? Now, with these examples, we come to the end of today's lesson. Remember, in the morning we say good morning when we just wake up. In the afternoon, we say good afternoon. In the evening, we say good evening. And at night, we say good night before we go to sleep. And when someone asks you, how are you? You simply say, I am fine.